the bodies that are allowed to feel sexual / romantic pleasure are very limited, because usually they have to be thin, fair, rich,
young.
Young.
I realized it was such an uphill battle to be reimagined as anything but a domestic worker, you know, or someone who didn't come from a place of privilege. And initially one didn't have the choice to say no, because there was no other work and one had to survive. But after some time, when the bank balance was enough to pay the rent, I had to reckon with the anger I felt.
Konkana, Amrita, Tilotama, welcome to Film Companion.
Thank you.
This is such a striking frame. I cannot wait to see the magic that you guys have conjured up with Lust Stories 2. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll start with the director of the ship. It's been nearly 6 years since your fantastic directorial, Death in the Gunj. Why have you kept us waiting this long?
How sweet. You know, I've been very busy. I don't know what I keep myself so busy with, but I feel constantly very busy.
Shooting. She has life as an actor also, remember?
I was acting also, remember? Yeah. There are a few web series I've acted in also, which will come out soon. I have a 12-year-old son, you know, and then, you know, I feel like I'm not a career director. Like, I once in a while, if I find something interesting, I'll do it. Also, there was the pandemic in between, guys.
I know. You can just shave off 4 years for, you know.
Shave off 4 years.
Yeah. Let's not talk about the last 4 years. You shouldn't ask what have you been up to. That question should be banned.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. But why don't you guys give me one perk and one flip side of being directed by such a terrific actor?
No, a perk is like, for me, the perk is to work with a mind that I deeply admire and feel very comfortable with and excited. I'm excited by her, off screen, on screen, as a director, as a human being. So when you are, you have that kind of excitement, like, you know, butterflies in your stomach, almost like a bit like in love, and like, you know, the honeymoon period hasn't phased out in our friendship yet, and it's very exciting to work with that. The flip side is she's a damn good actress. So, and she can act out all the parts, you know, including yours. So then, sometimes it's hard to unsee it, what she has done. And I don't even feel bad saying it, because I've said it to her only so many times. Just please don't show me. Please don't show me, because... And then she also has a point of view. She's like, you know, even if I show it to you, what you'll do is your own. So we have agreed to disagree about it. But I guess that would be the only flip side. But if there was a serious flip side, I wouldn't have worked with her again. And I've said this to her, and I've said it, you know, in all the interviews. It is definitely like a fantasy that I have, that every decade, what will I do with Coco? We'll both be in our 50s now. What kind of films will we make? You know, what will our bodies be like, and what are the stories that we will tell? That is definitely... That's so beautiful. That's definitely something that...
We look forward to collaborating.
In our 60s, 70s, you know, even if no one else can understand what to do with a 70-year-old, I'm very sure she can, because the way...
We'll have to figure it out.
We'll have to figure it out. Yeah. I know, but you know, she's also seen me. She has seen me in ways and imagined me in ways at a time when people couldn't see me beyond a certain way. And she could reimagine me. And because of that, it allowed the other work that came my way for people to just look at me differently, and not based on the roles I have played.
Yeah.
You know?
Amrita?
Yeah, for me, it was, I'll be frank, because I was in awe with her. And I don't know whether it's good to say or not, but I was in awe. And sometimes it can come in between. No, in the sense, like, when you work with that person, it could be irritating for her.
No, also nothing was irritating.
No. As in, like, you can't just looking at... No, it didn't go. It didn't go at all. It is really... And for me, it was amazing that I never felt that I'm meeting her for the first time. You know, she was like a... When an actor starts performing after a director says action, that actor is very lonely over there. She has to survive, or he has to survive. But few directors can make you feel she was like a butterfly right here. Like she was very near to me while I was acting. So I was never alone there.
I love how they've both used the butterfly analogy, huh?
Oh, did they?
Did I use the butterfly?
Did you?
The butterflies in your stomach?
Oh,
good catch.
Acha. She's an editor.
Yes. Oh, but I didn't realize that. Yeah, somehow. That's true. Yeah, so she's a butterfly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Straight to the flame.
In fact, she talked about around the time of Death in the Gunj, you had said that being a director makes you more cooperative and pleasant to be around as an actor. What did you mean, and does this still hold true?
I definitely think that I'm a nicer person as an actor after having been a director. I mean, I was always kind of nice. I was never a tantrum-throwing, late-arriving kind of an actor, fairly obedient and all of that. But I think after being a director, I think I, as an actor, felt, how to say it politely? I don't know how to say it politely, so I'm going to say diminished. Diminished, and because I don't think my performance is my own. My performance has been created at the edit because they've taken out all the bad bits. If they had kept all the bad bits, then you would say, oh, it's not a good performance.
Yeah, and
my performance has been created with the
what
light.
can be done on an edit?
You know, my performance has been created with the hair, makeup, wardrobe, you know, so it's not something I own at all on my own. And also sometimes what I'm thinking is not necessarily what is coming out, you know. So it's a very kind of a tricky area. The whole thing is very nebulous and it's not like a concrete thing in that sense. Yeah, I guess. I think I became a little more cooperative to some extent after being a director, and realized also, like, you know, I can get so much done as an actor. You know, even my other work, which as a director, you're just like, oh shit, will I just be able to finish my own work? And then, yeah. So that happened a little bit.
But, you know, during the time of Lipstick Under Her Burqa, when that released, there was just so much controversy because it dealt with the sexuality of a woman. 5 years later, do you think we've evolved more to just be more accepting that women are also sexual beings?
No, I think maybe we've devolved to a certain extent, you know, about what freedoms we allow. You know, it's very hard to give one concrete answer because there are so many of us and there are all kinds of people. So there are certain sections where we seem to have regressed further and become even more conservative and less tolerant. There are other sections, perhaps smaller in number, where I find many like-minded people. I find a lot of openness, a lot of risk-taking, you know, a lot of tolerance. I do find that also. But overall, I think we seem to be slightly less tolerant overall and accepting of something that is different or new or unfamiliar.
I would like to give an example of another play which is happening on Marathi stage, where there is a character who thinks that she wants to stay with two men at the same time, because she says, I like him also, him also. Can we all stay together? But still the audience is like, what is she talking about? And this plays come back after 10, 15 years again. So we are like there
And
only
the
like
name of the
still
play is?
Char Saughi. So they're still
Char? The
Char
three.
Saughi. That means 4 women. Char Saughi. So it's about 4 women. In one of them, the youngest one says this, like, you know, I want to stay with both of these friends of mine. And everyone is like, what are you talking about? And even she was telling me, as an actor, when she starts delivering those dialogues, she can feel the audience, you know, not hating, but what is she talking about? That, you know, the collective hatred, that kind of a thing she said she thinks. But I'm happy that still Seema is created, still Ishita is created. So as far as the content is concerned, I think we are definitely moving ahead with creators like Coco and Pooja, and yeah.
You know, Tilottama, you touched upon it a little bit earlier, but almost knowingly or unknowingly, the three of you have sort of done so much to just redefine beauty standards in the industry, and thank you for that, really. But how challenging was it for you to just get filmmakers to see you beyond what they found in their own heads conventionally beautiful?
Like I said, it was a cross-eye bore, you know, because I don't think at all it was Meera Nair's representation of Alice in Monsoon Wedding. She put in a lot of care to make her look luminous, even though she belonged to a class. You know, it was the upstairs and the downstairs, and the dynamics of class was very clear in Monsoon Wedding. But I never felt that while playing it. I was also like 20 years old, and I was made to feel like the center of the universe by Meera. And even though I wore the simplest of cotton saris and my makeup took 2 minutes, but the makeup artist made me sit on her chair for an hour like the others, and she would give me a head massage, a face massage.
Oh, sweet.
Just because once I just told her, I won't get any makeup. And because everyone else was getting makeup. So she's like, no, but I have all these potions from Dr. Hauschka and these, you know, and she made me smell really lovely. And these beautiful fragrances that she would put in my temples and, you know, and I just thought this is how it is. This is how actors are treated, you know. And then there was, you know, when I came back to acting after going away for a few years, I realized it was such an uphill battle to be reimagined as anything but a domestic worker, you know, or someone who didn't come from a place of privilege. And initially one didn't have the choice to say no because there was no other work and one had to survive. But after some time, when the bank balance was enough to pay the rent, I had to reckon with the anger I felt. That I'm not rich, I'm not poor. I'm the, you know, the upper middle class of India because of my education. So, if I'm not poor, why am I getting only to playing poor parts? I'm not rich also, then give me rich parts also. No, anyway, it's fiction.
Correct.
You know, it's not like, and the advantage of being somewhere in the middle is, you know, you're as far or as close to extremes, representing these extremes. Okay. So I did feel there was a, but you know what, that doesn't help to be angry. It's just so toxic. It you know, undercuts your own confidence and self-esteem. And I had to get out of it. It wasn't helpful because no one likes being around someone who is angry and about the system. And for me, that's why Death in the Gunj was a very important film, because it was very important for Coco how I looked. And most directors didn't care because they were only concerned about my performance, because I wasn't playing the woman to be desired. You know, and the fact that we don't think that if a woman comes from a lower class, she should be seen as desirable, or someone who is going through a, you know, intense kind of situation. But there's always the glamorous woman versus the intellectual woman, and these kind of polarizing, you know, I'm just nauseated by it. I was nauseated by it, and you know, and it was for me a relief, and which is why I'll put my heart out to work with her again.
Have you guys struggled with that at all?
But
no, please say.
So no, but I just remembered a walk in this film, in this particular film. There is a walk, and where, you know, the classes just merge. I thought so. You know, in this walk, Coco has taken this lovely walk from one character starts walking, and she's observing another character, and where she and me, they both go beyond the class, right? Our economic classes, and that, for me, was the most beautiful moment of this film, which Coco created. I remember that day when we created that moment also. Yes. And I'm happy that that got created, because it just went beyond from which class I come or my character comes, from which class Ishita or her character comes. And then such moments in any project are beautiful, I think. And I think Coco as a creator has been really powerful there. Yeah. Also as a content, I would say, and as taking the way she presented that walk.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see the walk, guys.
I also want to say that, you know, this thing about depicting bodies on screen, like very often, the bodies that are allowed to feel sexual/romantic pleasure are very limited, because usually they have to be thin, fair, rich.
Young.
Young. That was the fourth factor. So usually only those kind of bodies are allowed to desire. And also, there has been a certain limitation in terms of how people from different economic backgrounds are portrayed. I was so excited to have Tilly in the opposite of what a conventional casting would be. Like, I mean, that thought itself was exciting.
Yeah. And that thought is, like, I'm not playing the maid. Am I playing the... No. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is, and it's so sad that it's like this, because there shouldn't be anything about playing a domestic worker. No, but unfortunately it's like that because that's the way it's been depicted continuously, unless it's shown through the male gaze, and then you see how sexy domestic workers can often be, which is also a highly problematic,
yeah.
notion.
Yeah.
I've also struggled with this to a certain extent. I never wanted to be an actor when I was younger. And one of the reasons why I didn't want to be an actor is because A, I didn't relate to those roles, and B, I didn't look like the people who were, acting. So then and then little bit, because I've been acting for 20 years, so I've struggled in the early part of my career also, to look a certain way or to fit in and things like that. So that has, it's great in a way because it's helped me not seek external validation.
Yeah.
Because it was not forthcoming. So then one could do without it.
Yeah, and you get used to it,
Yeah.
You get used to not being complimented for your looks, but for your, let's say your acting chops. After some point, it's like, but it would be also nice to, if someone just said,
Yeah, because, we have a very narrow focus on what
yeah.
is desirable
Yeah.
and who is allowed to feel desire. So it's nice to be able to talk about this and then to open that up, hopefully.
I know you don't need me to say it, but may I just say that the three of you look fantastic.
Nowadays we all feel
now we
gorgeous.
know. Now we know.
But thank you. And so do you.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
But now we,
Absolutely. But Konkona, it's really heartbreaking, but I've heard you say oftentimes that you don't get very many interesting roles, and that's really, really sad for me to hear. But I want to talk a little bit about just the frustration of being great actors in an environment that celebrates mediocrity so often. How do you guys power through?
The thing is that from a very young age, maybe because my mother's also been an actor and a slightly unconventional director, so I always knew that this is the case in the world, where many times very talented people don't get recognition, and often people who are not necessarily very talented do. I mean, it's not a rule. There are often cases of both happening. So it was useful for me to already know this from the beginning.
Sure.
So to go in with my eyes open, this is the kind of industry I'm working in, where there are many lovely things. There are also problematic areas, and talent is not always rewarded. So that, I think, just having that knowledge helped, because also then one wasn't, again, depending on external factors a lot. So one was looking inwards and trying to make one's own journey exciting, having a rich inner world, creating exciting things for yourself, doing what you think is interesting, doing what you think is good, conducting yourself in a particular way, because often bad behavior is also rewarded, That's the other thing, problematic.
Yeah. That is more
We've all seen bad behavior being rewarded.
Yeah. But I knew it was always going to be tough, and the reason I feel in a good place is because the 20s and 30s was so tough work-wise, being so far and few. And because I didn't do film, I didn't get into the OTT bandwagon when it started, my films didn't release theatrically. And it was purely based on international film festivals that I existed. And what that is in India, what that means to people. And even if people know your work, they'll still ignore you, because it's just not something that is viable in India. So living, in that kind of shadow for 20 years, I was quite, I had, I think, figured out, my melatonin intake from other things. That when you are going to get only the sliver of light, and that'll come once in a year if you're lucky, or once in 2 years. You have to figure other things that give you joy, and there were many, thankfully, in my life. Whether it's gardening, embroidery, cooking, and family, and difficult things as well, and rewarding things as well, and which is why I think that being able to satisfy and not give in to that cynicism is perhaps what made my 40s so rewarding, because I've got more work in my 40s than I did in my 20s and 30s. So, when I was told that 20s is it, if it's not happened in the 20s, it's not going to happen for sure in the 30s, and it didn't happen in the 30s. So I thought they were right. As I'm getting older, it's becoming harder and harder, even though I've done big films. Or I thought they were big films, So if I'm here and if I'm getting work in my 40s, I can only attribute it to the richness that has come from the 2 decades of waiting and doing other things. And I have a lot. I have a lot to. I feel very ripe and fertile, and because I'm getting these chances that I waited for almost for 2 decades. So I think there is great pleasure in that.
Yeah, and sexy, might I add?
And very sexy, yeah. And you know, as you very close to your menopause, I'm definitely in my perimenopause, you know, and I thought all those things are going to be, you know, ugly, and I thought there was a certain fear of aging, which is, I mean, it's completely turned itself on its head. You know, it's the best time of my life.
Beautiful.
In many, many ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you know, dealing with the mortality of your parents, and as you're getting older yourself, I think it's such a trifecta of richness that I think if any part that you get, you will just bring so much more of your life to it, because you're experiencing life so much more.
Yeah, yeah. And finally, I'll just end by asking you guys, at a Netflix roundtable, Masaba Gupta had said that she's waiting for Bollywood to see a female actor the way OTT does. When do you think that'll happen?
Now is the time.
Yeah?
It should, yeah.
I don't think I want to wait for anybody to do anything. No, I'll just do my own thing and hope for the best. Because then, you know, then I realize it's better to have a more narrow and individual focus, you know. What's happening in the industry, what are the trends, how much have we advanced, women's impact. These things, now for 20 years we've been answering the same question. I'm not even interested anymore. I just want to do good and meaningful work, what I think is meaningful.
But sorry, going back to the earlier question, I would just like to talk a little bit about my psychotherapy. My therapy, I'm on my psychotherapy for last 10 years, which has kept me going. And I think it's very necessary for many of us, if we are suffering, if we are feeling low, when we don't have work, when we are feeling angry or whatever, frustrated. Most of the times it gets, we take it out on our partner.
Yes.
But I think psychotherapy is a science and it's gone much beyond. And I think we should take advantage of it.
Yeah, no, and I definitely think
and thank you for talking about therapy.
We've all done therapy, I think.
I've been practicing Buddhism, Coco knows, for the last 20 years. And yeah, definitely, if it wasn't for, you know, the philosophy inviting me to look at my self-worth beyond the opportunities that I'm getting at work, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here, you know.
Yeah. So it's basically self-connect that would decide when we will rule Bollywood or anything else.
And you know,
we have to rule ourselves, I think.
And also about the question you asked about, I mean, when and all, like, you know, this is a very beautiful thing. Jane Austen, who is considered a very prim and proper, you know, classic Victorian, whatever. But she said something very beautiful, even though she's not my favorite novelist, but she had said something that she said, you know I have only 2 inches of ivory. But in those 2 inches of ivory, I will try and make as delicate a carving as I can. I don't know about the world. India was being colonized by the Britishers when she was writing Pride and Prejudice, and, you know, so there's a lot going on, you know, in this world. But I know this 2 inches of, you know, I have these 2 inches and I'll carve as finely as I can in that. And often I feel that way about our presence, you know, we'll get our 2 inches and it's what best we can do in making that as beautiful.
I just want to say one line from Neena Gupta, which Masaba said in one of her interviews, that Neena ji told her, it's not what you, life will not give you what you deserve, but what you negotiate for. That's what she said. And that was something, it stuck me, because earlier, as we were saying, I used to think if I'm talented, I should be given work. You know, that was it has been my attitude कि मुझे दे दो, मैं audition के लिए तैयार हूँ, मैं hard work के लिए तैयार हूँ. But then, ये कुछ और है, ये उस sentence से मेरा बहुत कुछ खुला. Anyways.
No, it's really, really beautiful. And it was a striking visual and just an even more striking conversation. Thank you so much, really, for chatting with me. And I cannot wait to see what you guys do for many, many decades.
Yes,
and with Love Stories, all the best. Thank you. It looks lovely.